Prepare to meet your maker, the brand new addition to Unleash the Ghouls, where we chat to people from within the horror industry about something they have made. My first guest for this show is the writer and director of the viral sensation Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Please welcome to Unleash the Ghouls. It's Rhys Frake-Waterfield. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thanks for having me on. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
I was the producer as well.
The producer as well. I was going to say,
so many hats on.
I've seen your IMDb and you are a busy bloke, let me tell you. Before we get to the yellow bear in the room, Rhys, I would like to ask, where did filmmaking begin for you? When did you decide to take on movie making as your profession?
So I kind of learned it through almost like osmosis for a while, because Scott, he was my co-producer on this. He's been doing this for 7 or 8 years, and we always kind of brainstorm ideas together. We both absolutely love horror, so we go to Fright Fest all the time, and we're thinking, what concepts would be really good, what sort of death scenes could you do, and I was helping him with coming up with these general ideas for the films he was producing at that time. Meanwhile, I was doing a completely different job. And then about 2.5 years ago, I thought, that I could is something I want to do, and I want to get more involved in filmmaking. So I quit my job then, and then just went full time doing this. Wow. And I started off producing, and you can, like you were saying, I've produced a lot of it started off straight to DVD movies. Mm-hmm. Tons of them, and it was almost like a masterclass, because in the space of 1 to 2 years, we'd done so many. We were doing probably about 25 features a film a year, which all had worldwide distribution. And from doing that, you, especially on the lower budget scale, you have to get so hands-on with so many different aspects of filmmaking, not just from the treatment point, or you have to go do everything all the way up to delivery. I've had to get involved with DOPing, sound recording, clapper loading. I have had to get involved with doing the score when one of the composers dropped out, and it was super last minute and we had to deliver the movie. The sound mix, directing when something would go wrong. I've had to jump in and act at points as well. So when you've had to do all of these different elements of it, it gives you a really broad and high level understanding of how to what is really, really important to make a horror film. And I started getting more and more interest in directing at that after about a year. And I thought, this is something I think I could do really well. And I think I was coming up with some interesting concepts and ideas and deaths. And then when I was just looking for the right project. And then when I realized Winnie the Pooh was, we realized it was in the public domain, I was like, that's perfect. I had a twinkle in my eye, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to go and do Winnie the Pooh as a horror film. So and then it just kind of went rolling from there. And I got involved in this project, took it on board, and done the producing, writing, and then directing. So
yeah, you must be probably one of the most active filmmakers in the world right now in the horror space, because at least according to your IMDb, we have 23 film contributions since 2021 with 15 upcoming. So just where do you find your energy? Where does that come from to be able to do that?
Yeah. I drink so many of these, every set, honestly, to get through, because some people, they call them heart attack sets, because the hours are 14 hours, 12 to 14 hours, and you're making it in 7 to 8 days. And yeah, you're right. A lot of those upcoming films, they weren't even filmed recently. They were throughout 2021 and 2022. And yeah, it's averaged about 20 to 25 a year, which was mad. I was under an immense amount of stress in that period trying to do that many, because most people do one.
I can only imagine the pressure of all that going on in your head at once, man.
Pooh, Piglet, Eeyore, we were friends for many years, and they're out there.
Now, let's get to that yellow bear in the room. So, since Blood and Honey was announced, I remember this was going crazy on any horror forum you could find. Big media outlets were discussing it. When you had that kind of light bulb moment, when you realized, oh my days, I could legally adapt this into something, Did you expect to get a lot of media attention and a lot of buzz simply from the concept that you had created?
So, like, I knew there would be an element of it being really kind of like commercial and, you know, being shared around, but nowhere near to the extent it has like now. I'd kind of be lying if I'd said, yeah, I knew it was going to be the number 2 on IMDb. Like, I don't think anyone would have expected it. I thought it could do a kind of small theatrical run in like certain territories, because some other films we know of in this similar sort of vein and budget range had that, and I thought this has so much potential. That's kind of what I was initially hoping for. But then, yeah, as soon as the images start to get shared, and you're right, it went on like so many platforms. TikTok was going absolutely mad with it. Twitter, there was like every post, like multiple posts were having millions of views, like Variety, Lad Bible, the New York Post, Rolling Stones, everyone was like sharing it, talking about it. And it became a bit of like a storm for a while, and it became so incredibly viral. I think at one point it was the third most Googled thing for like a week or something, or like it might have been a day or a week, I can't remember. But it went mad. And yeah, as soon as that happened, we kind of knew, this is like, we got a bit of a winner and a once in a lifetime kind of concept here. So we just wanted to make sure the film was kind of as good as it could be, and we were initially expecting a release to aim for like roughly Halloween, but then we had to push it because, you know, we had to make sure it went to like the reshoot stage, and we kind of tightened bits up. We had more time to like polish it and get it to a kind of standard we were happy with, just considering the amount of people it was about who's about to watch it.
Christopher, we need to leave.
Just one regarding what you mentioned there with having theatrical releases in certain territories. When I was researching for this interview, I saw that allegedly there were difficulties regarding some European countries relating to the copyright. When you've adapted this from the public domain, what kind of challenges faced you in terms of how you were able to tiptoe and creep around getting this movie brought to life?
So there's two kind of big arguments or areas to get this moving. One was the fact it's it's in the public domain. So for like in the US, there is no argument with that. Like that's out of the public domain. You can do what you want. Another area you can use is parody laws. So I'm sure you saw like the mean one. That is a parody on the Grinch, and the Grinch isn't out of copyright. So those guys, that's what they've purely relied on, and they've releasing it in loads of different territories based just on that. And that's the same thing like South Park rely on as well. They do a lot of parodies. Like they have Winnie the Pooh and Piglet in some of their episodes, and they are literally what you imagine the Disney versions are. Like I can literally see in your background those two.
Yes.
It is them, and they're, you know, like zombies, and they're like strangling people, and, you know, they're known for just relying on parody. Now with the idea, what I really wanted to do was try and not go near Disney. Like I wanted to make sure that the only resource I was using for inspiration to build out this alternative view of Pooh was the 1926 version of the book. I tried to forget everything from Disney's version of it, then focus just on reading that book, and then try to draw inspiration and see what aspects of the story there could I adapt and change. And then that kind of was very simply showed me what I can't do, because, for example, when I read that book, Tigger's not in it. So it's like, oh, I can't use Tigger. They don't play Pooh sticks. It's like, oh, okay, can't do anything with Pooh sticks. And all of these other areas, you start to realize, okay, Disney have built up, that's their branding. That's what they've created. For example, Pooh in the red shirt, how he talks, like that certain tone he has to his voice, how he says, oh, bother, and all of this. It's like, that's their branding. That's how they've taken that version and what they've built, and their version of the character, which everyone loves, is based on all of these different characteristics and elements. And my idea isn't just to rip those off and, you know, try and tread the water as close as I can to them. I want to do the opposite and go as far away as I can from them. I made my own version, made him what I would want to see. Make him really big, menacing, like half bear, half man, so he can like grip weapons. Because I didn't want him to have paws, because then it's like he can't hold a sledgehammer, he can't grab a knife or something, and it becomes so much more limiting. So I was like, okay, just make him a half bear, half man, then he's got hands. And then after I'd done that, and I had this view of what the character would be, I then just done a little double checking process. I thought, okay, now let's quickly look at some Disney stuff with it and just see, is there any similarities? Like, have I accidentally introduced something in this character which is present in the Disney version? And if I have, let's just get rid of it. Like, it's not worth having that small element which could compromise the project. So I just stripped it out, and now it's now so far different from it that it's not possible to like mistake the two. If they're next to each other, they look completely different. One is obviously a monster and a killer, and the other one's not. So and that's the idea I was going with. Like, but I'm sure some people, now it's in the public domain, might not do that. I reckon some people might try and tread close towards Disney, but I think they're the people Disney will go after, because it will be like, it's obvious what you're doing. Like, you're trying to confuse people in the market and think that character and that interpretation of Winnie the Pooh is Disney's, and it's linked to the company, and then that's where they'll try and like make something commercial from it. But they'll probably get shut down.
Yeah,
if they do
quite
that.
It's just really cool to hear your insight on how you were able to sort of do that level of risk aversion relating to that, pre-existing sort of idea and character and things like that. And it's interesting that you mentioned the main one. And in sort of recent times, we've also seen a Fiona short movie based on the Shrek universe.
Yeah, I saw that.
And with yourself doing, Pooh, and going ahead and doing your Peter Pan movie, do you think that the virality of what you've created with Blood and Honey has almost opened the door culturally for this trend of almost like nostalgia horror, of being able to take these sort of childhood beloved characters and twisting them into a dark version of themselves?
Yeah, I really hope so. It sounds very it's very assuming, I think, to say like I'm responsible for all of this. I'm sure I've had like an element of it, and like I'm really happy that that's what's happening, because I really want to see stuff like this. Like, as a horror fan, I get really bored with like werewolves and ghosts and zombies all the time. Like, I want some different stuff, and I want some interesting stuff, and that's partly why I came up with this. Now, because we're lower budget and we don't have the same resources of what studios do, we're a lot more pro risk than they are, I'd say. Like, studios, they are putting millions behind concepts, so they want to be very sure there's something super commercial there and you haven't made a gigantic mistake which is going to lose all the money. Because we're putting smaller amounts in, we can be more risky and we can do crazier things. And that's true with these other horrors as well, like Skinamarink, like the Meme one, and Terrify 2. I think what our one has done as well is just shown that there is actually a market for this. It's like we've taken that risk, and it was a big risk because I could have, I co-financed this as well. So I could have lost all my money. Like, basically, it was like my life savings. It's like I could have lost it all. I could have got sued and like everything shut down and the company just dissolves. So there was a lot of concern at the start about it, but I just really believed in the concept, so we ran with it. And now evidently, like, when it's actually gone out to market, loads of people like it, and there is a market for this. Like, it's gone extremely viral. The box office numbers are good, and if that continues and it does well kind of in the US and in Europe and everywhere else, then I think what will happen is more and more of these concepts will start to come out, because once one person does something and it's proved to be successful, then other people will follow. It's kind of like natural that will happen, and that's not, and I'm not like annoyed about that people will just do a similar business model. Like, it actually excites me because, like I was saying, like, I want to see these things. Like, I'm so excited for like Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, I really want to see that. Like, someone else told me that there's a Barney horror film coming. Amazing. Wow.
That's exactly what you want. There's one that's caught my eye, which is Gale, which is a Wizard of Oz themed horror film, which is coming,
cool.
Which seems like a cool concept. putting aside the kind of influences of Pooh, this movie is a slasher movie. So I'd like to ask if there were any particular influences to you making the movie from the slasher genre on that side of the equation, more so than the Pooh side.
Yeah. So I love horror. Like, I'm a big horror fan. It's a genre I basically exclusively watch. Whenever I go to the cinema, it's always to see a horror film. I hate romance and all and that other stuff. This is what I want to see. And yeah, like, so there's a lot I've seen and I love. And for example, Halloween Kills, I absolutely like. I love that. Didn't like it as much because you didn't see much of Michael, but Halloween Kills was a big reference for me and the Halloween franchise overall. And elements of that you can see get brought into Pooh as well. Now, Pooh, in like tone wise, is not as serious as that film. Like, that is like dead serious. And I thought if people go and watch Winnie the Pooh in the cinema, they want it to have an element of like just being fun and silly, and it doesn't have to be just deadly serious. Like, it is Winnie the Pooh. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a bit strange anyway. There are certain scenes where I've introduced those elements from Michael Myers in there, but they still have like a little bit of a sillier tone. Two big examples being in Kills, where he has that mob attack him, and when he comes out of the barn and it's on fire and the firemen are there. Now, I have a scene where like 4 people attack Winnie the Pooh, and it's a bit of like a mob. So there's that element in there, which is really fun, and I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes of the movie. And then at the end of the film, car goes on fire, and you've got Pooh menacingly standing in front of this like blazing fire in the background, which was all practical as well. Like, we didn't VFX any of it. We literally just blew up a car, and it looks really cool though. Like, when you see him standing there, there's an element of it being ridiculous, like, because you pause when you say cut and you look, and there's like a life-size Winnie the Pooh standing in front of a gigantic fire. Like, it looks strange, but I think that's what people want. Like, they want to see Winnie the Pooh in these weird scenarios. So that was a big inspiration for me. And then a few others which have elements integrated into it are The Strangers, Wrong Turn, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're all some of my like favorite horrors.
All great choices as well, definitely. And it seems that whatever you figured out with Blood and Honey, all those ingredients combined have created something where a sequel to the film has already been announced. So I won't ask about what we can expect in the movie story-wise or anything like that. But what I would like to ask is, were you expecting sequel potential from the moment you had the idea for Blood and Honey? And if so, like, did you have anything in your head to where you could take the story should a sequel be greenlit?
Yeah, so I kind of always knew it would get a sequel. Like, I really believed in it, like, right from the outset. That's why I kind of got involved with directing it, because we've done so many. You have to be selective about what you choose to direct, and there was so many concepts flowing around which I could have jumped on board with, but this was one where I was like, I really believe in it, and I think it could be really good. So I always thought this is going to be successful. It's going to lead into a second sequel. Way more successful than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be significantly less impactful, and I didn't think this many people would jump on board with it and want to see it. So the other aspect I had to consider was like budget. Like, when you're like resource and budgetary and you've got budget limitations, it creates constraints on filmmaking where you need to be really careful. And this is where I'm like, my producer hat goes on what stuff I can put in the film. Like, in the principal photography, I didn't have a car on fire blowing up, and part of that was because I didn't have the money to do it. Like, it's expensive to do, and I didn't have the money to put loads into his look in terms of the face. So I had to rely more on a kind of pre-made mask to do it. Now things have gone really, really well, and it's basically, I'm almost certain for the sequel I'm going to have at minimum 4 or 5 times the budget of the first one, which is really dramatic. Like, that will lead into me doing some really cool stuff. The budget of the first one was less than what Terrifier 2 had, to put it in perspective. 4 or 5 times that can do significant things for the film, and I'm trying to now take on board all of the feedback when people watch it to see what do you want more of in the movie, so I can make it, you know, the best for as many people as possible. And one of the aspects is like I was saying, the face. Like, I want to introduce a more prosthetic element to it, to have more and more facial movement. I want to really up the practical element in the film as well. So I want lots more practical kills. And I want lots more deaths. Me and my co-producer are talking about it, and he keeps telling me, like, he's being more ambitious than I am. He's going, we're going to have 100 deaths, and he's telling 100 people are going to die in this movie. And I'm a little bit hesitant. I'm like, okay, you can say that for now, but we'll see when we get to the script stage. Because otherwise it's going to be just a death every minute, and there will literally be no story at all. It will just be one death scene followed by like 99 others. So, but we're going to try and have a really high death count.
That's perfect. It's almost like 100 kills for the 100-acre wood, you know? It's kind of along those lines. Well, we very much look forward to seeing the sequel, but also please do go and check out Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey wherever possible, because it'll definitely be worth your time. But a man who is also worth his time, thank you very much for spending it with us, Rhys, chatting about your movie. Are there any particular future projects of yours that people should keep an eye on?
So our next one we're producing, or I'm getting involved with producing wise, is Bambi. So Bambi's going to have a horror. We're looking at Winnie the Pooh too, but I have a load of other concepts which I'm kind of fleshing out now, and I'm hoping to get like a big amount to make one of these move. I'd like to fund one of these, and like we should be talking like millions, and that will make this concept, or one of these concepts, absolutely amazing. So I'm like super excited for this whole retelling universe we're starting to build out, and all these kind of like unique villains.
There we go, the Retelling Universe. It finally has a name. Thank you very much, Rhys. Cheers, mate.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Hello, it's me again. Thank you for checking out this video, and thank you once again to Rhys for taking the time to chat with me. It's a brand new thing for Unleash the Ghouls. Hopefully we can do a bit more of this and get some more guests on the show in future, so comment down below who you'd like us to try and get a hold of for an episode. For Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, if you're in the US, you can get tickets for the film, which can be purchased online at Fathom Events, that's FATHOM events, or at participating theatre box offices. For a complete list of theatre locations in the US, visit the Fathom Events website, though theatres are subject to change. If you're in the UK, the film will be released in select UK and Irish cinemas from the 10th of March and on other digital platforms, DVD and Blu-ray from this spring, and you can pre-order those now at Altitude Film. Thank you very much. Cheers.